Welcome back to Steeler Thoughts and Chief Feelings, episode 29, I believe. Got it right that time. I am your co-host, Chris. I'm the philosophy professor and the Steelers fan in the group.
And I'm your other co host, Ajay. I am the Chiefs fan and the psychiatrist in the group. Thanks to all of you who've been following along here on the YouTube channel or on social media. We are at STCF715 on TikTok, Twitter, and the Instagram. And that's my cue for the comment of the week, which is coming. It's actually not a comment, it's a conversation that happened in the comments. From TikTok. We had posted a clip of Cortland Sutton getting free against Trent McDuffie, and basically posing the question is about whether it's offensive pass interference or not. And so we had the subsequent conversation happen in the comment section, starting with Austin Hoff saying, LOL, he stutters in stride, causing the defender to also stutter, gaining separation, ... Lots of great receivers use this. That arm is not causing that separation, LOL. Ben Mabry then replied, it clearly is, LMAO, are you blind? With a laughing while crying emoji. Austin Hoff replied, you kids need to go outside and play sports. Try and do that to someone running full speed and see if it slows them down. Ben Mabry then replied, are you being for real? And Austin Hoff said, no, I'm a Broncos fan, LOL. My team has the worst separation for receivers in the league. I obviously understand he pushed off. Laughing and crying while crying emoji. So,
What? I can't tell. That is a really interesting conversation because I can't tell whether the last point was serious or not. Do you take
I,
that
I,
literally?
I think I've read this several times, and I think so. I think the person, after being pushed a couple times, just conceded and was like, yes, I'm being biased.
That's
That was
great.
my read of it, at least.
That's the read I would like to have of that too. I think that's the one I would prefer. So, let's read it that way. A lot of the times, you have a choice about how to interpret people and give them the good interpretation if you
Yeah,
can.
I feel like should all give each other the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, that's a good conversation. Yeah, I mean, I was looking at when you did the play breakdown there. The arm is definitely correlated with McDuffie slowing down significantly, right? In a way that makes it very suspicious. But it's
So,
very subtle because it doesn't look like he could get that much leverage with the angle of the arm. So it's impressive too. But
what if someone who's really, really discerning? In fact, like I would have like given an award if someone pointed this out in the comments. Probably would have been able to tell that, like, I spliced that clip into the all 22, and I had recorded the whole all 22, including the part after that clip, before I really like looked at that clip. So you can hear me like I've already committed in the all 22 not calling it offensive pass interference. And then I watched that clip and I'm just like, oh, but like I can't say it's offensive pass interference and then know that the rest of the clip is going to say it's not. So I'm kind of like left to like really hedge and not say much during that clip. So
yeah, it's
it came
tough.
across as really interesting. I feel like if you watch that knowing that, I feel like it's actually kind of funny to watch. Uh,
Yeah. Clearly, you changed your mind, but you can't tell that in the. Yeah. I don't, so I was wondering about this too, because they can't really write the rule in a way that says don't do it noticeably, right? But in effect, that's what the rule is, right? Like
right.
in practice, it's like don't noticeably push off, um, which makes it a kind of art to push off unnoticeably. It's kind of cool, to be honest. Like I don't know if that you could. Is that an intentional feature of the game, or is it, or not? I don't really know, but I guess it shows up in a lot of different contexts. But this is a very clear one where it shows up.
Yeah. This one I don't mind nearly as much as the one we've seen a couple times this year, once in the preseason, once in the regular season, where the receiver pulls the defender down by like inside the chest plate and the defender gets called for pass interference. Because that's also a very subtle one that's kind of hard to see from the referee's angle. And both Joey Porter Jr. and Trent McDuffie have been unfairly called for pass interference in that situation. Joey Porter's was in the preseason, but still.
Yeah. To be fair, though, I mean, we've talked about Joey Porter often deserves it when he gets those calls. So, uh, Okay, yeah. So, good, interesting discussion there, but also an interesting week of football for us. Look at the man. I'm getting so good at these segues. I need to just, oh man, I didn't even practice. They're just like coming through naturally. What do you want to talk about first? We have two, yeah, again, very, very contentful games to discuss. And I should also just warn the viewers that I am not the most knowledgeable because I was working while trying to follow the games this week. So, I know what happened vaguely, so I have thoughts.
Let's start with the Steelers game. It had a happy result, so let's start positive.
Okay, sure. It'll be a downward trend, which is how life goes. Anyway, so yeah, Pittsburgh and Baltimore. I mean, I okay. So maybe I would. This is another one where I'd be very curious to get sort of more impartial observer's perspective on it because, if you had told me coming out of the bye week we were going to beat the Commanders and the Ravens back to back, back to back weeks, both 7-win teams. I would have been elated. And coming out of both of those wins, we won them both in sort of as as unconvincing a fashion as possible, I would say. So while I am very happy that we won both of those games, it's not like we're winning in ways that give me a ton of confidence going forward. And that got me all into questions about what are you looking for in a victory? Are you just looking for a victory, or are you looking to be a good team or look like a good team? And so I don't know. Maybe we're getting into territory where I'm sort of unsure whether this is what I want. I mean, I do like to be winning certainly, but I would like to be winning with more like panache or something. What was your
Well,
take? I mean, does this look uh, as unconvincing as I took it to be?
I don't think so. I mean, the hard part for me is I thought you were going to win both of these games, and I think you're going to like that was part of my 11-6 prediction. So this
Yeah.
hasn't really changed any of my thoughts from 2 weeks ago because I thought you were going to win these games, and I think it's going to be tough sledding going forward. But I think it's nice that there were two like slightly different. I mean, really kind of different games, even though one can see similarities between both teams, right? With a dynamic quarterback, offenses that are moving the ball like crazy, and defenses that are susceptible to the pass. But somehow the Steelers Ravens game ended up being a knockdown, drag out fight, I believe is the phrase.
That's it.
Uh,
Yeah.
again, even though the Ravens are susceptible to the pass. And I just think it was like two slightly different styles of games, even though the teams are similar, and you won them both, which is a good sign. One was like, we need to come down here and we need a touchdown to win this, and you were able to do it. And one was like, we need to continue taking punches from this team and give enough that we win, and you did that too. So I think it's encouraging. I think the Steelers defense is like here to play, and they just make big plays. Like the turnovers that the Steelers were forcing were like this was like big boy turnovers, right? Like wrench the ball from you in the Peyton Wilson interception. I don't even
Yeah.
know if that was an interception or a fumble recovery. I don't know what to call
Yeah,
that,
that was
but
yeah, that was a weird play. I mean, definitely a turnover was involved, right?
yeah.
Uh,
And
what to call
even
it?
though someone on Twitter is convinced that his knee was down, Justice Hill's knee was down, that ball was definitely moving. It was close, like, but that was definitely a turnover. And I mean, those are the kinds of plays that like it's just like we're gonna take this game from you kind of plays. And I thought that Nick Herbig forcing a fumble on Derrick Henry to start the game was a real tone setter. Like, so I just like that. I mean, the Ravens are a bully team, right? And you just came and bullied the Ravens. So to me, it's a really encouraging win. I don't know that it means that like I see you all in the AFC title game, but that was just a really that's what you wanted out of this team. And so I don't know. I thought it was a good win.
Yeah, I guess that's a nice spin on it. It was a character win, which like basically we always need character wins when we play the Ravens, and sometimes we don't show up, and at least we showed up this year. I mean, we've been showing up against the Ravens for a
I
while
was about to
now.
say it's been a little while since.
Yeah, I think we're 8-1 in the last nine or
Yeah,
something.
it's something ridiculous, and I think Lamar has only beaten you all once in his career.
Yeah, he's 1-4 now, I think, which is just very strange. I don't know if we're just getting in their heads or if it's we're actually doing th we must be doing things schematic. I mean, in this one you could see, yeah, some of that was just like we're going to take the ball, take the game over, not really over, but take this game away from you. In the
Well,
past,
and
it
I
has
think
felt like
it
we got pretty lucky, but
and I think it makes him tentative because, and I haven't finished reviewing the film, but like there are a couple moments where it's 3rd and 11. He's got 8 yards between him and the nearest defender. He's running up to the line of scrimmage, and he doesn't run, and he just
yeah,
throws a ball over Zay Flowers' head. Like,
yeah.
it's one of those.
Into his
And
face mask,
that
basically.
was crazy.
Yeah,
I mean, I know there was a lot that happened on that play, so it probably just all happened too fast for Zay Flowers. But you don't see that from like a good wide receiver. Like you see that from like a running back or something. Just hit him in the
yeah.
face.
It was to the point where, like, seeing it live, I thought like it was a little fast, and I like, did that just bounce right off of him? Like he was just standing still with no one around him, and yeah, that's what happened. I couldn't tell if I saw it correctly.
But
But
I
yeah,
think
maybe good.
there's some component, I think, of the defense like making Jackson second guess himself because there are times when I like that one I'm referencing, like you take I would have been terrified if he started running that ball. Like, he's going to juke one or two guys when he gets moving in the open field. So I think that he sees enough things during the games against the Steelers that he starts to second guess himself and not even taking the plays that are there to be made for him.
Yeah. So it's probably a combination of us just doing things that make him start second guessing himself, and then his history against us is not good. So it's just that also feeds into it. So, we'll take it at this point. I still like, if you ask me which of these two teams is the better team, sort of just in a vacuum, I would pretty definitely say the Ravens, but we just have their number, and that's how it's been for a couple of years now. The offense our offense here. So I grant, like, the defense really came to play, and they were sort of the reason we won this. This was really like you nailed this in your prediction, and not quite the score, but you were close. And
Yeah, I think
what?
I said 17-14.
Yeah, so very close. But you also, you thought this was gonna be like a sort of knockdown, drag out, Steelers Ravens game, and it's exactly what it was. I don't know. I was thinking, I guess I always go into these games thinking like the teams are different this year. Ravens have a dynamic offense. We have at least a better offense, and so it's going to be more of a shootout. And it wasn't. History. These teams, I guess, just know each other too well. I don't know exactly what the variables are here that keep making these come out the same way, but they keep coming out this way. So something else is at play there, which is interesting.
Do
But
you so do you feel pretty good about like how confident are you in the idea that like the Steelers have Lamar Jackson's number? Like confident enough that you'd want to see him in the wild card round?
no, no. Uh, no, I don't know. It just feels fluky every time because I know how good he is, and like, and those, like, the plays you're talking about. It's like, it's, if he can get out of his head, he can beat us. Right? It's what it feels like. Uh, but we've got him sort of second guessing himself too much, and I mean, I'm fine with that, but it's not the kind of thing where I would want to bet on that, happening again and again. Um, but maybe on the other hand, it's the kind of thing that the more it happens, the more it's likely to keep happening because you keep, you remember all those times that the Steelers beat you before and made you uncomfortable and whatnot. So
Even when the team iterates a little bit, it's still similar results. So that's
yeah,
also very nice prognostically.
yeah. I don't know. It's hard to be confident going in against such a good player, I think. So I would prefer to see a lot of other teams in the playoffs if we get there. But uh, so the defense again looked really good. I think the flip side is the offense did not. A lot of pressure on Wilson. I think he looked confused a lot about what he was seeing. His numbers turned out like meh, like okay. I mean, we should talk about that interception in the end zone where he sort of lobbed it up to Washington, and Washington didn't go for it. You know, and I still find that perplexing. I don't know why he's very big and again, it was like a little bit overthrown, so maybe that's why he thought it was intended for someone behind him, and he thought I better not take that. But um, I don't know. I thought like it wasn't a bad idea, in my opinion, of a throw. It wasn't perfectly executed, but um, I don't
I
know. It definitely
think
hurt.
I I guess my read, and maybe this is like not charitable enough to Russell Wilson. I don't think in a vacuum it was a bad idea to make that throw. I think it was a bad idea to make the throw to him because like I don't know that because my and this is it's kind of based on how I feel. I don't think the ball was overthrown. I think that Russell Wilson wanted Washington to fall toward the end line and then jump. And
Yeah.
I just feel like that's kind of a lot to ask from a normally blocking tight end who probably has not had that many like when he gets the ball, it's like a play action first read. Like, I don't know that he's the guy. It actually reminds me of when we played basketball in junior high school. If you remember, we had like a really animated coach. Um, and
Yeah,
he
what was his
was
name?
like, his name was Willie Smith.
Yeah,
He's
Willie.
like a former Mizzou basketball great. I actually really, really like him. He was like fun to play under, but he was like he's an old school like tough coach. And I remember, and he was one of those people that like I don't know. He would really get on me like all the time. Like anytime I did anything wrong, and I'm like a little bit responsive to that kind of thing. So I really liked him as a coach. But I remember one game he was like, "We got to push the ball. Like I was a point guard for a lot of that, and he's like, you got to we get the ball, you get the outlet, like get it up court. We're doing fine on fast breaks. We're not getting the ball down the court now." So I get the ball and I throw it up court to this guy. Who was not one of the best people on our team. And the ball went right out of his like right through his hands and out of bounds. And coach, like in the middle of the game, in front of everybody, looks at me and is like, "Not him!" And that's what I think about when I think of this play. It's like you did everything right, but not him. Like maybe he's the wrong guy to expect to like fall off to the end line and go up and get that ball. Yeah.
That's good. I don't remember that, but I could see that having been me, right? Like that's the kind of thing that I would have like thought too much in the middle of the play about like, don't drop this, Chris, and then I would drop it or something like that, right?
Maybe that's my anecdote for the day. The
Yeah,
unexpected anecdote.
yeah, that's fair. Uh, there's a lot. I mean, to be honest though, there's not a lot of people that you would want to throw a kind of a lob to on our team. Pickens, if he's single covered, certainly. I don't know. That was almost maybe like triple coverage around Washington at that point. They were converging. So
But at
uh,
least like someone like Van Jefferson or Mike Williams, you feel like would know what to do in that situation. Like at least he would like go back to the way like Marlon Humphrey knew what to do.
yeah,
Like he like I feel like Washington didn't even know what to do. He was just like, well, that surely is not for me. And then like, or
throw
like
this
that's
ball
good.
really
Like
low.
it just watched it
Maybe
go
two
right.
feet away from him, 3 feet away from him. Yeah.
Yeah, like and a guy who's like it feels like a foot shorter than him, who not actually, but it feels like it just drops back and it picks that off.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It was regrettable. But yeah. I mean, Wilson's, I guess, had two straight games now where he wasn't, spectacular. I mean, the last against the Commanders, he definitely, he got the job done. But I mean, he got the job done in this one too. It was just, it was rough going. And so I don't know, obviously you keep him in there because he does open things up for our offense in ways that, he makes us more dynamic still, I think, than we were under Fields. But we did bring in Fields at the end of the game there to seal it, right? To do that, to slide 1 yard short, and then hand off
That
to Harris for the win.
Yeah, I mean, just in case, like, Wilson's having a rough game, and so they had to bring Fields in to be like, no, no, you don't want this guy in. Watch. Like, if I were a Ravens fan, I would have been so ticked off. Like, when Fields comes into the game, the one thing on my mind was like, don't let this guy like if he's gonna zone read, like if they hand it off to Harris, fine. Like let him get 5 yards. I'm not letting like there was nobody in Fields' vicinity. Like I would have been so mad if I was a Ravens fan.
Yeah, you'd think that would be the one thing they were watching out for. I
Yeah,
think.
yeah.
I don't like you thought we were gonna pass or something like. I don't.
If he did that, like all power to him. Like if you make Justin Fields throw and he gets a first down, like fine, I'm willing to
Sure.
give that up. But I would not have given that run up.
That's
Oh, I don't know.
um, yeah. That's a. I don't know. The Ravens did a couple of things here that. I mean, we kind of forced them a couple times into things that I think that honestly, I think Tomlin did some cool things here when they were to go, when they're going for two. He got them to show the look and then call timeout, and then I think they had to run a different play at that point, and we had that well defended.
That
But
was also a pretty confusing play. Again, I haven't like gone through, but like I watched the broadcast a couple of times on this, and like so they clearly are like sending a misdirection over to the right, and then they're running Lamar Jackson over to the left.
yeah,
But like neither Mark Andrews nor Isaiah Likely, who were the two receivers on that side, seem to actually be trying to get open. Like this looks like a designed run, but it's like
yeah,
they're not blocking either. It just looks weird when I watch it over. What like it's almost like they were confused, or maybe they were supposed to, and they were like, well, Lamar's going to run this, so we're not going to do anything. But then at the last second, when Lamar doesn't have anywhere to go, he's got nobody to throw to because
yeah,
nobody's trying to get open. It was very odd.
yeah. We've had a couple plays near the goal line in the last 2 weeks that the other team just sort of gifted it to us, right? I think
Well, like
this
the
against the
the
Commanders, the one where
Giants, the
oh
Giants
the
had that two
Giants,
point conversion.
yeah, yeah, two-point conversions against us have just been like the other team doing something totally nonsensical and not getting it,
Literally,
which is
the
fine.
only person on the whole field that knew what was happening in that play was Alex Highsmith on the Giants play. Like nobody else, none of the Giants had any idea what they were doing. That was
Yep.
really weird.
I don't know. I mean, we're 8-2. That's wonderful. I'm not complaining, but I feel like that's an inflated record. Where we're getting by. I don't know. Again, like what are you looking for out of a football team? The first thing is wins, I guess. So, wonderful. We're doing that. But if you won every game by like a point and you looked terrible doing it, like wouldn't it be preferable to win every game by like two touchdowns and look very good doing it? So I think it's not just wins that count, right? There's more to it, and I think there's a feeling of like we are dominant, we are unstoppable that we do not have right now, and that's a nice feeling to have. We've talked about that before on this podcast. So I don't know. I'm certainly happy with where we are, but there's plenty to be desired, I think.
Yeah, not. I really am now. I'm just like I want you all to keep winning until the. I want the Christmas game to be like for the one seed. I feel like that would be really fun.
That would
I,
be thrilling, yeah.
I mean, I should also add that we need to keep winning for that to happen too. Because last year when we kind of lost one after a win streak, the like bottom fell out for a little while. So let's hope that's not happening this year.
Well, you have, I mean, I guess the Bills being what, one game back and
Yeah,
having
they're
the
one game
head-to-head.
back and having the tiebreaker too. So all the motivation to keep winning for sure.
Have you
Uh,
looked at the Bills' schedule? I don't actually know how hard theirs is. I know
I
ours
know they're
is.
playing the Niners in a couple weeks, but the Niners do not look great right now.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
I mean, their division is completely falling apart. Although Miami looks a little better, so maybe the Miami game will be a little more difficult. But
yeah.
and New England is at least like frisky now, so
Yeah, that's a good match
maybe
for them. Drake May he can make plays.
yeah.
Um,
But
I
yeah,
mean, it would be very much like Buffalo and Josh Allen to just like come out and have a terrible game next week. I don't know who they play next week, but
oh, one
maybe
can only
fine.
hope.
Um, anyway, that's just looking around a bit. Yeah, so I don't know what else to think about this one here against the Ravens. I mean, that's again just our first divisional game on the year. We have a very short week. I don't know. I still think okay, back to the passing game. I just think we need more variety there. You know, like the moon balls. There was maybe like one in this game, and we
Yeah, there
connected
was one
on
to
it.
Pickens. Yeah.
Yeah, but teams are like defending that now, and we need other things to take advantage of their their cover two shells basically.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, the Steelers are very clearly boom or bust in the pass game, and this was the day when, I mean, with Russell Wilson, they've been able to hit the big ones for his first three starts, and this one,
yeah,
no. So
yeah,
there needs to be some level of like intermediate, consistent passing game that's not there right now.
I think that's right. I think like there's some hints of that again with like Washington in the middle of the field. We had a couple plays of 15, 20 yards on a fourth quarter drive, I think. And Fryermuth, that all pro tight end, I think he's still being underutilized, but tight ends have historically been very good in Arthur Smith's offenses, so you might expect the other production to come from them, but it's not a ton of it so far. So, and again, maybe it's just because like I don't know, Russell Wilson is short, right? He's my height. He's also my age. Basically, just I am Russell
He's
Wilson.
you.
Yeah, right. And I'm not seeing over those linemen, so I don't know how he is. Um, but uh, yeah, so I don't know. Maybe he can see Washington in the middle of the field at least, and that's why he's hit him a couple times. But I don't know. We need to find a way to hit some other kinds of passes basically because the passing game is a little bit one dimensional right now.
Yeah. Yeah, and that'll be the thing that they have to. And I don't know. I mean, there's still that level of integrating Mike Williams into the offense, but unfortunately, he's kind of a deep ball contested catch guy too.
Yeah,
Uh,
and he didn't do
so
anything this week. So
no, I mean, it's I understand like getting someone acclimated, but like how hard is it to run a couple go balls? That's just what they seem to be doing with them anyway.
yeah,
But I have to circle back because I forgot to add one thing about the Russell Wilson interception, and that is Arthur Smith's reaction to it, which I just feel like I don't. This is not purely self promotional. This is honestly for the good. Anyone watching or listening to this, just go to the at STCF 715 Twitter feed. We tweeted out just a 1 second clip of Arthur Smith's reaction to Russell Wilson's interception. It's worth it. It's worth watching. Like I've watched it probably like 25 times because it's so funny to me. Like I can't stop watching it. It's hilarious.
it is good. It encapsulates what every Steelers fan was feeling at that point, probably.
Which is, I think, almost very close to what I tweeted as the caption to, like Arthur Smith was every Steelers fan on this play.
There we go. Yeah.
Like, but like it doesn't look like something a football coach would do. It looks like something, and his mustache makes it even better. It looks like something from like a comedy movie, like a
SNL
slapstick movie.
skit or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so good.
Yeah. Well, we have a break coming up in just a little bit. Should we see? Is there anything more to say about Pittsburgh, Baltimore? I mean,
Does
um,
this? Let's say like what your thoughts were about your prognosis of beating, like let's say sweeping the Browns or taking one of two from the Bengals. Does it change from this game at all, or do you feel does your outlook on this team change at all after this game?
um, I do think we have a lot of confidence right now, and I think that confidence is sort of motivating us to keep, working hard, whatever, it sounds very trite, but I do think, we seem very focused, in a way that, you could lose focus or lose, if you're on a losing streak and you feel like you should have been doing better or whatever, like the Bengals' whole season has been basically, uh, then I feel like you can lose focus at that point, and then things start to fall apart. But uh, sort of, the momentum is built in a nice way for us, and I think it could be feeding into, our confidence and our collective focus. So I do feel like maybe a bit better about not taking any games for granted than I usually expect us to take a couple games for granted and then come out flat. But so far this year, we've sort of managed to mostly avoid that. Um, So
Although the two losses have been against teams that, like, you guys could be 10-0. Like,
yeah.
you've beaten all the best teams. Like, you might have lost to the two worst teams you played. I'm trying to remember the other teams you played.
Well, the Colts were not. The Colts are not. Hey, and Anthony Richardson, awesome. Like I now really want that guy to succeed. I mean, uh, anyway, he had a good game, and I was happy to see it. Um, but yeah, I mean, we didn't lose to awesome teams, but we were there in those games too, right? Like yeah, like as
Yeah.
you were saying, we could have won both of those games, and then we could have lost plenty of other games. So I think we're about where, in some respects, about where you would expect us to be based on how we played record wise.
Do you want to talk Steelers Browns like the Thursday night game now, or you want to do that after we talk about the Chiefs game?
Um, I mean, I guess we're kind of close to it anyway in terms of the propositional content of whatever we've just been through. So yeah, I mean, we might as well. I didn't. I know the Browns lost sort of handily to the Saints this week, and I guess the wheels have come off of the Jameis Winston train there. Yeah, there are wheels on a train, at least on some trains. Uh, yeah, I don't know. I'm sure they'll probably make me nervous for a while. I don't know if what do I want to make a predict? I guess I should make a prediction about this. I don't know. It's a short week. I think it's in Cleveland, right? I should check. Um, let's see. Yeah, it's in Cleveland. That makes me uncomfortable, and it's not like we're going to have a lot of time to install new passing concepts that I think we're missing at this point, and are hurting. Our limited passing game is hurting us. I don't know. We're gonna have to rely on it's gonna be, I think, well, it would be nice if I was wrong about this, but I think it's gonna be a kind of game where we have to rely on our defense to keep us in it. The offense will put up. They might do enough, but you know what I would like to see actually going forward? When we get in the red zone, especially, inside the 10, maybe have just those Justin Fields packages come out then
Yeah.
because we were a lot better in the red zone. And basically only there, but we were better in the red zone with him at quarterback.
Yeah.
His running ability just really opened things up for us. And given our, Wilson's struggles this week, especially in the red zone, I think that might be, I don't know. Like I get why you would want to have, all the all the glory for one quarter, one guy or whatever, or one unit. But you want to do what you can to give yourself the best chance of winning. And I think that sort of multiple quarterback packages could be could be smart for us, even though it's not a common. You don't see it very much, but I don't know. Is that a bad idea? Like, what's the downside of that? Does it because we were better in the red zone with Fields.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that independently I was thinking, especially after how successful the Fields kind of packages were this week. But
Yeah.
maybe we should take our break and we'll leave you hanging for the predictions.
All right, sounds good. I'll give me time to think about it. All right, and we're back. So we left off thinking about what the Steelers and Browns are going to do on Thursday, and I had the break to think about it, and I didn't make a lot of progress. But here's my two sort of lines of thought, at least. So on the one hand, historically, this is a game we would lose, coming off two big, not very convincing, but nevertheless big wins against good teams on a short week playing in against a team that's 2-8. We would lose a game like this. Now, would we lose it because that is somehow like coming down from the head coach? Like, is this a Mike Tomlin kind of loss? People like to talk about like this is a Tomlin loss. Or are those Tomlin, quote unquote, Tomlin losses really a function of the players? Because our players are very different at this point than they have been in, even like 2 years ago, right? I guess the defense isn't that different, but the offense is. So it'll be an interesting game from that perspective, right? Whether you take those Tomlin losses to be Tomlin losses or not. I think it'll be informative for that. But uh, if I were going to predict, I guess I am going to predict. I think we'll win. I finally am going to predict us to win a game. I don't remember the last time I
It's
did
been a
that.
while, yeah.
Yeah. Uh, I think it'll be something like 24 to 17. Maybe 24-13 or something. Yeah, let's say 24-13. I think we'll win, and I think, it won't be as convincing as you might hope, as I would hope, but it'll be okay. Um, but I will be very curious to see how it goes because I think it tells us a lot one way or the other.
I think I have a similar kind of read on this game that I think it'll be a win. It won't quite be as convincing as you'd hope, but I do think it'll look a little better than 24-13 score wise, just because I think the defense will really shut the Browns down. So I'm going to go 20-7. I think it'll be a game that like is never really in doubt. It never feels great because it's never like you're not like up by that much. Because I think the offense will be a little uneven in this game. It's a short week. I don't think they've done much game planning. Like so, I think it'll be one of those, and it's a divisional game, so the offense won't score that much. But I think 20-7 seems about right to me.
Yeah, I could see that being the ballpark. On a short week, what do you like? You just sort of you let your best players try to make the plays, right? And I guess the question will be whether our offense can make enough plays against what they're probably going to do, which is play a cover two shell. So we'll see. But yeah, I think we'll pull it out. Okay. To the Chiefs.
To the Chiefs.
What was your first loss of the season? What was your read on this one?
Um, well, similarly to how the Ravens game didn't change my perception of the Steelers, this game didn't really change my perception of the Chiefs either. I don't know that it gave me any new information. Of course, would have loved to have a win, but it's. I think we did talk a little bit about how I think it was much more a game that the Bills needed to win to try to keep pace in the AFC. I know the Bills probably want to win just to beat us, but I don't really buy that narrative. Like, they've beaten us the last 3 times we played in the regular season, now 4 times, and they still haven't beaten us in the play. I don't think Josh Allen cares until it comes to the playoff. Obviously, he wants to win every game, but I don't think it's like, oh, we really have to beat the Chiefs. Like, I think he's thinking about that in January. But I think they were very motivated to win because they got to keep pace. If we had opened up a 3-game lead with the tiebreak for the AFC, I mean, that would have been on them at least. I actually I posted a clip of specifically the breakdown of the Steelers or the Chiefs Broncos, like the blocked field goal. And I was talking about how important the Bills game was because it was like, I made this argument and someone was like, yeah, but the Steelers have 2 losses too. And I was like, that's fair. Here I am just talking about the Bills, but the Steelers are in this too. But
Yeah, we'll see.
I mean, like I've said, I'm predicting 11-6 for the Steelers, so they might prove me wrong. But I just think their schedule's so hard. But with the Bills, now suddenly the Chiefs are in a position where resting becomes, it would be a luxury. We're 1 game up on the Bills, and I hope they lose a couple more so that we can have some breathing room, but we will see. And we have a couple games coming. The majority of the really hard games on our schedule are over, but we play the Chargers again. We play the Broncos will be the last game, so hopefully we could be in a position to rest people by then. Um, and let's see, we've got the Panthers. I'll have to even check our
Kansas is
schedule.
next week, right?
Yeah, we're playing the Panthers next week. Let's actually do a quick.
That should be
I
nice.
haven't. Yeah, we got Panthers then Raiders. That's the Black Friday game. Definitely not going to be a game we take for granted after the Raiders came into Arrowhead and beat us last year. But it's Panthers, Raiders. Then we host the Chargers on Sunday Night Football. Then we go to Cleveland, and then the Texans, Steelers back to back. So it's not that easy.
It
I mean,
gets
we have
fun.
like three clearly difficult games: the Chargers, Texans, and Steelers games. So we'll see. Um,
Yeah,
whoop. That
you
was
still
not
there, right?
intentional.
Yeah. Yeah, your schedule's not like a walk in the. I mean, it's not our schedule, right? But it's not easy. I guess let me check the Bills schedule here because it does feel like, strangely enough, like at least at this point, the top seed is coming down to Chiefs, Bills, and maybe Steelers. But our schedule, I wouldn't put us in that conversation until we can
Oh,
step.
yes. The Bills play the Lions too.
Oh,
So they're going to
absolutely.
play the
And
49ers,
they're
then the
at
Rams, then the
Rams
Lions.
too. They have a tough schedule actually.
They have
So
three tough
that's
ones in a row.
yeah. Um, yeah, that's helpful for you all. I guess I guess the worry here, like big picture, well, no, I don't know. We can get to that later. I still worry about the Bengals, and maybe that's just because of how well Burrow is playing. But they're what? They're 4-7 now. Like how long should we keep worrying about them?
I mean, they basically the Bengals have to go 5-1 to make the playoffs,
Yeah,
um, and that's going to be a tough task. They're playing the Steelers twice. I feel like you'll at least split there, in which case they're going to have some real work to do.
yeah,
Win all the rest of their games, and they're just not reliable. Like they should have won that Chargers game. Yeah, I can't wait to complain about them because I'm so mad that they didn't beat the Chargers. So we'll do that afterward. But let's back to the
yeah,
Chiefs.
yeah. Let's get
Um,
off the topic.
it was kind of on one hand it was kind of a Chiefs Bills game, right? Kind of hung in the balance. There were a couple plays here and there that decided it. Uh, Not that much to take away on that front, and it was kind of a Chiefs game from this season. Um, Deep passing. So again, this is another game where I have so many thoughts on it. I got to keep myself organized here. Maybe I'll start with again. It was clear that the Bills really brought like a big time game plan to this game.
Mhm.
And again, it didn't really feel like the Chiefs did on either side of the ball. So, two things the Bills did that were big tendency breakers. They're a heavy zone team, and they went like aggressive man coverage for a lot of this game. So, a lot of the things that one would typically game plan for the Bills would not work. And the Chiefs did run some man beaters, but interestingly, like the Bills usually put like a deep shell on everything. They run cover two. They kind of keep everything in front of them, and the Chiefs kind of dink and dunk and run the ball. The Bills were much more aggressive, and the Chiefs continued to dink and dunk. Like they did not, and it's not a personnel thing. Like we have the horses to throw deep. We did it a couple times, and that's it. One was like an ad lib play to Hopkins. One should have been like a 70-yard touchdown to Xavier Worthy, and Mahomes just
Yeah,
threw that ball
that's
way too
tough.
far
That
to the
was a tough one.
sideline. I mean, honestly, like one thing we got to talk about is Mahomes' deep ball accuracy has not been great this year. Like, yes, Worthy should have got his feet down, but like that ball, if that's a little inside, like he's taking that to the house.
Yeah,
Um,
there wasn't really a reason to put it that close to the sideline. I mean, was there when he
no,
threw it? Did it look like it was going to be
I don't
tighter?
think so. I mean, he was following Worthy's route. Like he led him perfectly, but why? I mean, he always puts balls on people, and it's not like Worthy was at like full sprint. I don't really see a reason. I think he's got to keep that ball inside. And Worthy's good at tracking balls and adjusting. Like that wouldn't have been, this isn't Justin Watson running out there who kind of like runs the route on paper.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that was a miss. And the other, he did hit one to Worthy for like 30 some odd yards, but that's it. We weren't even trying anything. And guys were, I've started reviewing the film. I'm going to record the film review tonight. Guys were getting open. Noah Gray was getting open in the intermediate. Mahomes missed him once while he was getting tackled. That led to an interception. He threw one underneath to Kelsey when he had Gray intermediate. Like, for whatever reason, they were not prioritizing moving the ball down the field. And I know they can. I don't know why they weren't. And
Yeah.
they also had success running the ball and did not run the ball very much in this game. So It clearly was not a, like, we're going to spam things that we think can beat this defense today kind of game plan. It was very much a, we're going to come in with our game plan and we're going to try to make it work. And the same thing defensively. On the other side of the ball, the Bills ran the ball with Josh Allen much more than they have been this season. I don't remember a single time we put a spy on Josh Allen this entire game. I will bet money that if we play them in the playoffs, we're going to spy Josh Allen. I cannot tell you why we didn't in this game, except that we just didn't want to show it. I don't know. Like, so there are certain aspects of, like, I know the Chiefs have more than they did in this game.
Yeah.
And the only thought I have is that they just didn't, like, the Chiefs do this. They don't want to show exactly what they think your weakness is until they play in the playoffs. And I don't want that to sound like an excuse, but it's kind of hard to ignore. Like, when you have that 4th and 2 and you don't spy Josh Allen and he runs for 26 yards and a touchdown, like, I guarantee you in that situation in the playoffs, if there's a 4th down and short, Josh Allen's going to have a spy, like 100%. So, the Chiefs, they do this, and there were enough plays to be made on offense to win this game, and Mahomes didn't make them. The pass protection wasn't that great. There were
Yeah, do you think
some
that was
really.
connected with why they weren't going deep as much? Didn't think they would have time, or is that not
It
the issue?
No, it wasn't like consistently enough bad that I think that was a consideration. The other thing too is, like, their goal very early on was very clearly to get Xavier Worthy involved. Like, they
Yeah,
didn't do
he looked
Kelsey,
good early too.
yeah, but they didn't do Kelsey. They didn't do Hopkins. They weren't really trying to get the ball to those guys at all. Like, Worthy so it really felt like a game where you're like, hey, in these kinds of spots in the future, we're going to need you. So we want you to get used to making plays against teams like this rather than, like, going to your best player,
That's yeah.
Like,
I mean, that's cool if especially if you can do that and win at the same time. That's awesome. And if either way, I mean, it's probably you know for it's interesting that the Chiefs do this and they're like, is Andy Reid like open about like sort of taking the
no.
long view, but you can tell like that's what he's doing.
I, yeah, I feel like Andy Reid will just say, like, I got to use better stuff. And, we're trying to win the game. Like, I
Yeah,
didn't do enough to win the game. But it's just too much of a pattern. Like, it's too
yeah.
much for me to ignore, and
The
they
way they can just
do.
turn it on in the playoffs, you can. I mean, like to be able to do that, something must be going on there, right?
Right, exactly. Like, there have to be things that they are. Now, I don't think Mahomes is intentionally sucking on his deep balls. Like, he's got to figure that out. Like, I don't think he's
Sorry.
intentionally throwing it out of bounds.
That phrase is just a good one.
Oh yeah, that was unfortunate. Now that I replay that in my head, but but
Yeah, no, that's right. I mean, but
like,
you gotta think that's the kind of thing that if anyone can get their deep balls corrected, it's Mahomes. Uh,
yeah, I mean,
just,
I hope so, but and you do wonder if they're going to have a game where they're just like, we're gonna go deep to Worthy like 5 or 6 times to try to get this sorted out, because you don't. And listen, we had this situation last year with every receiver, it felt like. And then Marquez Valdez Scantling caught like 2 bombs in the Bills game and another one in the Ravens game. So in the
yeah,
playoffs. So somehow, and one of them, he caught like one handed on his helmet as he was running. I was just like, where?
yeah,
I
no
don't
problem.
understand. Like, what happens in the playoffs? I don't know. So knock on wood, that's how things will go this year, that like everything just seems to work.
Yeah.
Um,
Um, so do you think the Bills back to? Oh, I don't want to go too off topic, but back to they went heavy man. Do you think that was just trying to build off what the Broncos did? Because the Broncos seem to have some success doing that, and maybe they were just betting that again the Chiefs wouldn't be expecting heavy man, and so they wouldn't have a lot of man beating concepts in there.
Yeah, I think so. And it's not the first time we've had situations where teams have just gone. I mean, the Lions on opening game last year had been like a very zone heavy team, and then suddenly played a ton of man against us. Um, I think that that's what teams are going to do when they really want to beat us. Because, I mean, Juju and Hopkins and Kelsey are just too good against zone. Like they're gonna pick it apart. Um, but when you dare us to beat man coverage, and we do have guys that can do it well enough, and Andy is 100% capable of scheming things up to beat man. In very creative ways. It's not like he didn't use any man beating concepts in this game, but it's not like he was making a heavy concerted effort either.
Mhm.
And then there were times when, Noah Gray was beating man coverage in this game. And I don't think Mahomes is accustomed to looking at Noah Gray before he looks at Kelsey, but I do think Mahomes is going to have to start looking like deep intermediate. Early on in his career, he was always like look for the deep, then the intermediate, then the short. And since teams were taking away the deep route, he kind of reversed that. And I think it's about time when teams are getting this aggressive. Like, you've got to reset now. It's time to look down the field a little more, especially when they're not using Worthy like they could. Worthy gets open a lot down the field. And if they dial up more shots to him, he's going to continue to get open. Like, nobody's running with him.
It looks
And
like,
when they
yeah, he
when
looks
they
like
do send,
he's doing what you want a receiver. Like he's not limited at this point. At least that was my read on this game. Like he can do the things that you want a receiver to do. He can sit in the little gaps in between guys and he obviously can track the deep ball well. I don't know. I
that
feel like
and that
all
sitting in between in the gaps between guys was the most encouraging thing. There was a big third down, and they had a quick hitter where Worthy just went up, sat in the
yeah.
zone, and Mahomes fired it to him. That is a timing and trust route. If Worthy's not right at that spot, like that ball can be picked. If everything isn't perfect there, like he's throwing it right in between two defenders on time, he's trusting Worthy to go and sit in that zone. Like that was hugely encouraging. That's what Rasheed Rice. Those are throws to Rice, sometimes to Juju, like guys that Mahomes really trusts. So to see that going to Worthy was awesome. I think that's really good prognostically.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Worthy's, I mean, he's developing before our eyes here, right? We started very limited in his route tree, and to be able to do that now is awesome. But I also think, well, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I worry if like the Steelers hate playing man coverage, so that's a good sign for you, right? If you struggle against when teams go man heavy, you'll probably be fine against us. So just look
Well,
forward.
and like Minka has really been very happy to lean too far to one side as the single high, and so if the Chiefs get like some combination of Hardman or Watson with Worthy and can get one of them going, like it that could be problematic.
Yeah, we don't have a ton. I mean, I can think of cases where we used to go man heavy when we had the personnel. I just like when we play the Patriots, sometimes we would do that, but when we didn't have the personnel, we would just sit in zone and get picked apart the whole time, and it was very predictable. And I don't know if we think we have the personnel this year to play a man heavy front. I think. Well, anyway, that's looking ahead a bit, but it will be curious. It'll be an interesting point of discussion when it comes time for our head to head. Um, what about for? So you mentioned the running game was fairly successful. They just weren't really leaning on it here. I thought yeah, like there were some good Kareem Hunt highlights there. Seemed like he ran it pretty well. Um, uh, do you think it was just a sort of function of? I mean, the Chiefs were behind for a fair bit of the game, right? It was, maybe they were just passing to keep up.
Yeah, although it was within one possession throughout until the fourth quarter. That's the first time. And there were two drives, coming out in the third quarter, it was 16-14 Bills at halftime. And the Chiefs made stops on the first two Bills drives. And the Chiefs offense did nothing with the ball either time. And the defense didn't play its best game, but the opportunities were there. And, the Chiefs offense just wasn't good enough. And
Yeah.
Josh Allen, he made big plays, especially I don't know that the Chiefs defense was so bad on third downs. Like there were some really, really good throws and catches. And that happens with Josh Allen, like that against us, that does happen. I will say for a couple of them, if I am to get to my like complaining side, number one, I don't know if you saw on their second drive, the deep pass to Amari Cooper where he toe tapped on the sideline.
Yeah, I think so.
Um, I will just say that the NFL's definition of possession has gone so like the ball hits his hand and like his like right toe is like on the ground as the ball hits his hand and then it comes up and his left foot hits in and then his right foot hits out of bounds. And like now just like him like having the ball touch his like hands is enough to be like possession with 2 feet down. And then I'm just like, by that definition, everything would be a catch fumble.
Like,
Like,
yeah, touch it with your hand as you're in bounds, basically. Right?
yeah, because like I mean, he's got the ball in his hands, but it's like the frame, like it's like he has it for like 2 frames. You know what I mean? If you slow it down, like that's,
Yeah.
and it definitely like I don't know that you can say it's not moving in his hand when his foot comes up. Like not that it's bobbling, but it's just like still settling in his hand. I don't know. It like to me, you can't have it both ways. Like if that is possession with 2 feet, then like anytime someone catches it for a millisecond and they get hit, then suddenly that's a catch fumble.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
what happened to
Or like
making
all you have to do is basically like guide your hand along the path of the ball so it doesn't it doesn't look like it's moving in your hand or something, and then you got
yeah?
it.
I mean that's a real. I mean, and again, it's a good throw by Josh Allen, but it's another one of those plays where it's like watch. I'm gonna put this in the film review, but look, watch Cooper's trajectory as he's tracking that ball. Like that is a really good job by Amari Cooper tracking that deep ball, and that's part of the reason the throw looks so good. I increasingly, I mean, I've always felt this, but I always feel more justified because I feel like I have a more concrete way to explain it. Is that we give quarterbacks so much credit for deep balls, and it's like half of that, more than half of that to me, is whether your receivers can track the ball. You're ultimately throwing it up there and trusting a guy to go get it.
And if they
And
don't
when the
follow if they don't go
yeah, then it
toward
looks
it,
like a shit
like a
throw.
totally terrible throw, right? Yeah.
Man, I'm gonna have to cut that out too now.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's right. I think that's definitely right. I mean, just thinking about Russell Wilson's throws, like you can imagine a lot of those, they don't look good if Pickens or Mike Williams or whatever doesn't track it, and we saw what it looks like when Darnell Washington doesn't go for it, right? So
Right.
those deep balls are a lot on the receiver. Yeah.
So that will be one complaint, and then my other complaint is that the touchdown so I'm trying to remember the exact game script here, but I think the Chiefs went up. I don't know. I'm gonna forget the game script, but we were up by. Were we? I'm gonna have to pull this up. This is thrilling, thrilling for those listening.
Thrilling content at the moment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's thrilling content. I just want to make sure I get this right when like discussing what exactly happened. But so if we get to basically, oh, okay. So the Bills actually went up 23-14. So I was wrong saying that it was like one possession the entire time until the end. So the Chiefs ended up. So this was the touchdown I think that made it 23-14, right? Yeah, that's what it is. Okay, so it's 16-14. The Bills come down, and the touchdown to make it 23-14, which was a 12-yard touchdown to Josh Allen, or to Curtis Samuel from Josh Allen. It was a mesh route, like a crossing route, and Mac Hollins like straight up picks Najee Johnson. Like it's not even. I mean this is why they make the rule for offensive pass interference. Like they're running across the field, and Mac Hollins just runs right into him, and like. So it's like, why was Curtis Samuel running wide open? It's because his defender was completely picked off. And so for the Chiefs get all the calls crowd, like that to me was as blatant an offensive pass. I mean, Van Jefferson from week 2 would have been really ticked off watching that and seeing no flag thrown.
Like we didn't call that, yeah.
Yeah, like that was a real rough one.
Yeah, well, you should put that in the film review just for the Chiefs get all the calls crowd. That's a good counterpoint. Um, yeah, the it did feel. I mean, it did feel like the Bills were kind of in control in the second half here after that point. But again, it could have just been. Well, who knows?
No,
I'm
I
going
think
over
that's true. And honestly, like the Bills were looking pretty good up until I think Josh Allen threw that fourth down interception to Shamari
Oh
Connor.
yeah, Yeah, that was a fun.
Uh,
I mean, that was
that
just a
was a fun.
miscommunication, right? He thought the guy was going to keep running.
Well, Shamari Connor very smartly Knox is running a drag route within 5 yards, and so Connor just hit him, and then he hit him right before Allen was gonna throw it, and then suddenly Allen throws it. Knox stops because he just gets jammed by Connor, and Connor just went and got the ball.
Yeah. So that was basically just Connor making that play, right? Yeah. Nice. Um,
But that because that was another point. The Bills had the ball a couple times in the first half with an opportunity to open it to a two possession lead, and that's where the defense kind of came through. And then they continued coming through in the third quarter, and then just the offense has just got to capitalize a little bit more. Now, the other thing I will say is right when the Chiefs got down two scores, they get down that 23-14. Suddenly they look amazing.
yeah. It's not
And they
right. They
come
came back and had like their best drive of the game right after that, right?
yeah. Which is again somewhat telling, I just feel like when the the things got real and it was like, okay, we got to go win this game, then suddenly they look awesome. So, it's obviously the Bills are going to be a formidable opponent, and if we play them in the playoffs, it'll be a very difficult game. But I don't know that this game taught me any more about what that game's going to be like. I
Yeah.
knew it was going to be hard before this game. It's still going to be hard afterward. I still think we can win.
Yeah, it's a strange kind of loss to try to diagnose. And maybe, I mean, maybe it's not. Like both of us are, I feel like really reading heavily into our game, right? Like I'm trying to like diagnose. I mean, we won, right? But was it a good win? I don't know. Um, like, are we overinterpreting? I guess that's the question that I have for both of us. Like, are we overinterpreting our teams here? Like, Chiefs lost by 9. Like, is it just like, is it bad? I mean, it's not great, but is it like bad, bad? I don't know. I don't know. I mean, the Steelers won, but like it looked terrible, right? So is it good? I don't know. I, I don't like, are we, there's like a read on this where we're just like, where we're too far into the weeds in some way, in some sense, and we can't see the forest for the trees, but
I
it's
mean,
not,
I think that's
whatever.
100% true for the Chiefs game. I think last year taught us this. That you just don't judge the Chiefs until the playoffs. If we look terrible in the playoffs, fine. But until then, nothing matters except getting the one seed. That's been my mentality. It's just if we get the one seed, I don't care who we've lost to on the way. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Um, well, should we speak? Oh, look at this segue. Speaking of getting the one seed, do you want to look around the rest of the league and see what's happening with other teams in the running for the one seed? Well, that was
Yeah.
terrible. It was a fine segue until I just like built it up too much.
Do you want to predict the Chiefs
Oh
Panthers
yeah,
game?
yeah, good. Sorry, and it was also a premature segue, so nothing good about that. Yeah, but you go first.
I don't think it's gonna be that much of a domination because the Chiefs just don't do that these days. If this was like 2020 or 2021, I would be like, this game is going to be like 43-14. But it's not. It's 2024. So I'm going to say 27-17. I
Hmm,
think
okay.
it'll be, it'll probably be 27-10. It's not going to be like we look terrible, but it'll be like 27-10 until they're like 6 minutes to go in the fourth quarter or something. And then the Panthers will score a touchdown and everyone will be like, wow, the Chiefs only beat the Panthers by 10. And the Chiefs will keep it moving.
Have the Panthers? I don't even really know what they've done recently. Did they play this week?
They beat the Saints a couple weeks ago.
Okay. Um, yeah, I don't
Yeah,
I don't
to
see
be
them.
fair, we haven't had a lot of reason to think about the Panthers.
Yeah, there's not a lot.
Oh, then they
Um,
beat the Giants last week too. And that
okay.
remember the London game? That was a bad game. Yeah, so they've
Oh,
beaten the Lions and the Giants. Or this is Lions. If only that would have been funny. They've beaten the Saints and the Giants recently.
okay. I mean, I don't know. Speaking of the Giants, you had that call on Daniel Jones, which looks pretty good now.
Yeah, was that a lock? What did I make that? I don't even
I think
remember.
you did. There was some lock related to him not being their quarterback next year. Is
Yeah,
that right?
Daniel Jones will not start for the Giants next year. Was a lock. Yeah,
I mean,
I'm liking that one.
yeah, that's pretty good right now. But yeah, as far as the Panthers, I don't know if they're not as laughable as they were earlier in the year, right? They're like getting by. Well, not getting by. They're still not good. But I don't know. It's hard to see this being a loss. Let's put it that way. I mean, well, I would say maybe 20. I like your 27 number. That's a good number. 27. Man, 17 is also a good number, but I can't make the same prediction as you. All right, I'm going to say 20. mm, 27 is so good. Let's say 26. I don't know how you get to 26. That's a little hard. 26 to 14. Um,
We might just miss a PAT because Harrison Butker's out. We have
okay.
like a
Yeah.
backup kicker. Yeah, so
Yeah.
maybe that's how you get to 26.
Okay. That's fine. That's easier than like 3 field goals or whatever, getting a 4 field goals. Um, okay. There you have it. Uh, Similar mindset about the Chiefs game next week. That reminds me, though, by the way, Justin Tucker is really fallen off of a
Mhm.
peaky cliff. I don't know. It was funny that apparently after the game he said the surface uh, at Acrisure Stadium was not ideal, and a lot of Steelers fans were pointing out that Chris Boswell was 6 for 6 and had a 57-yard there, and it's like, yeah, it was fine, right? Uh, but anyway, f- granted, for a while Tucker was definitely the better kicker, but I feel like that was a game where Boswell sort of took the what's the phrase, the baton, whatever. I think we can say at least at this point that Boswell's a better kicker than Tucker, which is fun. I mean, Boswell's been good for a while, but I always thought he's not in Tucker's league. Oh, but he is. Anyway,
Yeah, I think definitely. Tucker, my favorite narrative is like the last game of last year in the AFC title game, the last game that they played was when Tucker did the whole like try to
yeah,
put his kicking tee. And so the narrative Chiefs fans have is that Travis Kelsey broke Justin Tucker by like tossing his tee, and he's because I think he missed one against us in week 1 too. Like he's just been somewhat inconsistent all year, at least by his standards.
yeah, yeah. Well, don't mess with the Chiefs in the playoffs with your kicking
Yeah.
tee. um, so maybe looking around the league now, we gotta take a break in a tiny bit here, but I mean, we mentioned the Colts and Jets. I didn't get to see that, but I was really happy to see Anthony Richardson come back and actually play well. I think one over the last second touchdown run, right? That's cool. I
Yeah.
mean, I like that. I like, you know, again, I wasn't optimistic, but to get benched and then go back in and do something like that, you got to be happy for the guy.
Yeah. And he clearly responded very well to it. What do you think? I was just thinking about this. Like, what do you think about Flacco's end of last year now? Like, he was not good on the Broncos and the Jets. He comes and he's like catches fire with the Browns for like 5 or 6 games, and now he looked terrible in Indy. Like, I guess that was just a random spark. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I mean, he looked fine, like pretty good against us when we played the Colts earlier this year. And again, maybe that's just because we weren't prepared. But it could also just be like, how old is he now? He's old.
It's like 39, I think.
I mean, that's around the age when a lot of quarterbacks kind of like, you know,
Well, ask the other quarterback in this game. Aaron
yeah.
Rodgers.
I mean, Rodgers is not the quarterback he used to be either. What was he in this? I mean, his numbers were solid, 22 for 29 for 184, 2 touchdowns. But
I think the big thing with Rodgers, at least for it's not that I've been tuning that closely to Jets games, but I did go to one this year. I just feel like he is getting rid of the ball way fast. Like, remember, Rodgers used to be the guy
yeah,
that like held it, and he's doing none of that. And I don't know if it's because he doesn't have the mobility. The only game where I felt like he was kind of doing that was that Thursday night win they had against the Patriots back in like week 4 or whatever. but he's not hanging on the ball. He's trying to get it out of his hands really fast. It looks like he doesn't want to take any hits or he doesn't trust his movement or something. But
I
it's
mean,
just
this is the kind of thing that happened to Ben later in his career too, right? He just, I mean, part of it may have been with the play callers, but he was getting rid of it so quickly. Every like checking down on third and long, or even on third and medium, checking down, and just I don't know. Maybe there's just a point in time where it's like my body has had enough. I'm going to avoid hits at all costs and I'm try to win games by throwing quick. But yeah, I don't know. Uh, he's not the quarterback he once was. Um, what other games this week? I didn't catch any of Green Bay and Chicago, but it looked like that was a fun one.
that was a fun one, and I had it on like red zone with the volume off, and I was like, my daughter was running around, so I actually thought the Bears made the kick. And then, like, I thought they made the kick, and I went over to the Chiefs game pretty quickly. And it wasn't until that night where I looked at the ESPN.com and I was like, wait, what? Because, like, I wasn't really paying attention to the TV. It was in red zone. And Scott Hansen seemed excited. I thought it was because the Bears finally beat the Packers. Like, I didn't have the volume up very high. And so I completely missed that they didn't make that kick and the Packers won.
Yeah, I don't. How do you feel about that as a Packers fan? I don't know what to make coming out of that game. I guess you feel like, well, we won, but
Yeah, it's like the Chiefs beating the Broncos. I feel like it's the same. It's like, well, we figured it out somehow. All right.
yeah. Um, we know almost need a break. I just want to. Well, we should talk about the Denver Atlanta game because Bo Nix is looking good.
Yeah, and then I have two games to complain about, so we can do that on the other side of the break.
Okay, sounds good. And guess what? We're back. So Ajay has two games to complain about. So do you want to complain about them?
Or did you want to talk about the Broncos Falcon? I know you'd started with that one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a ton of insight about it except that Bo Nix seems like he's really running Sean Payton's offense well. And I guess there's some concern that he might be good. That's I would leave it at that.
Yeah, I still think this is more of the Sean Payton is doing like I think it's to me it's more of like I have to credit Sean Payton. I know I've been somewhat skeptical of him as well. I'm still not terrified of him, but he's clearly able to like get a team to be good enough, like maybe I underestimated his floor because if you remember at the beginning of the year, I predicted the Broncos to be the worst team in the AFC West, which is not even close to being true.
Yeah.
So I think we've got to at least I have got to recalibrate where like the floor for Peyton seems to be like 7 or 8 wins. Like he's gonna get there, and I like Bo Nix. I think is going to be like a solid starter. I'm trying to think of a comp. Who would be my Bo Nix comp?
Kirk Cousins. Is
I
that
don't
too
even
good?
know. Yeah, I think that's too good. Do you think Kirk Cousins or Andy Dalton's better? Because I was thinking Andy Dalton might be just a hair too good. What's like a slightly worse, like like a Byron Leftwich level, not play style or anything, but someone who
Yeah.
will be like a good starter for a couple years, or like
Tommy
or a
Maddox.
David. Tommy Matt, there it
Or
is.
Ray Ware.
There it is.
Yeah.
Tommy Maddox had like a couple good years, right? At least one good year.
At least one. Yeah.
Was it what 2002? I
Yeah.
think he had a
Yeah. He
good
was
year.
good in 2002, and then he was like half good in 2003. Um, I
Tommy
guess back.
Maddox, that's a good one. I like that one. I think that's Tommy Maddox was drafted by the Broncos too.
Yeah. Okay, so Bo Nix is the contemporary Tommy Maddox.
Oh, that's a good one. I don't think I would have been able to come up with one that good. I like that one.
But he did it. I mean, these were good numbers. These are like, I mean, on the flip side of that, I guess the Falcons suddenly are struggling.
Yeah.
What were they 6-3? They lost two straight to the Saints, and now they just got destroyed here. Um, I don't know what to make of them. Maybe they're just like moody or something, and they're in a bad mood at the moment. But
Yeah,
um,
and I mean, they, I feel like the thing that's supporting the Falcons season is that they have the Buccaneers number for whatever reason.
Yeah.
They swept the Bucks and they won that really weird game against the Eagles where like Kirk Cousins just came down and won at the very end. Like that. Besides that,
He
they've
had like
beaten nobody
500
good.
yards or something, right? I think that
Yeah.
was, yeah.
Didn't he have 500 yards both times they played the Bucks or something
Yeah,
crazy? Like
right.
he went nuts both times they played the Bucks.
Yeah.
And then he had the well, no, I guess the second time he only had 276 yards, but he had 4 touchdowns. And I think
And
the
it's
first
very
time he had
pedestrian,
500.
173. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a weird year. I thought the Falcons would be a little better than they are, but they still may win that division just because the Buccaneers are also not too hot. So,
Yeah, I don't know. It looked like they had like figured things out, and now it does not look like that. So the narrative has definitely changed there. Um, but which games would you like to complain about?
well, first I'm so mad at the Bengals. Like this was I had like stopped paying that much attention to the game when it went up when the Chargers went up like 24-6 at half and then they padded with a field goal and then suddenly the Bengals come roaring back and they tie this game at 27 with a good amount of time, 12:21 to go in the game. And the Bengals got 3 more drives with the game tied. And they missed a field goal, then they missed a field goal, then they punted. And then finally gave up like a huge in like a so the Chargers get this ball back then with 45 seconds to go after the Bengals punt. And they start at their own 16-yard line. And it just takes them 27 seconds to go 84 yards and score a touchdown to win this game. I was furious. Like this game was there for and the thing is that like
And they were like on fire until they tied it, basically.
yeah, like I mean, I almost called Justin Herbert Bieber.
That's awesome.
Wow. Herbert, I mean, from looks, it kind of works too, right? But not just being Justin. But Herbert was throwing missiles in the first half. Like, oh, he was. And then they just, like, Lou Anarumo adjusted and they couldn't do anything. And the one thing that is we always talk about how the fact that for all that Herbert does, like it just seems like when it comes down to it, he's not able to put together drives to win the game. Well, the good antidote to that was to play Joe Burrow.
Yeah, bro. Scott Kagsmar, or however you say his last name. Do you see that stat that he brought up? Burrow has
Yeah,
like
he's
game-winning
won one game where he's been losing in the last 8 minutes ever in his career.
That's
Like,
absolutely mind-boggling. For a quarterback as good as him, like what's going on there? I don't know how you explain that.
but it was the only I can't believe because it's not like Herbert has done that and. Like, I mean, Herbert did move the ball through the air the first couple plays, but this is where I feel like Herbert starts to really succeed is when it's like, okay, we need a lot of yards now. And he finally, like, lets loose and just goes. But I don't know. The Chiefs have had him in this kinds of spot so many times, and he has never been scary. Like, for as scary as he is throughout the beginning of the game, like, this was a comforting game for me when thinking about, like, all right, are the Chargers actually good? I was watching the first half of this game. I was like, oh, dang it. Like, here I was just being like, you know what? The Chargers just beat bad teams, and then they're up, like, smoking the Bengals. And I'm like, oh, they might actually be good. And then we watched the end of the game. It's like, no, I think they're the same Chargers, actually. Like,
Yeah, neither team
okay.
wanted to win this game. They both tried to screw it up.
Oh, God, I'm so mad. Like, this would have been the fourth loss for the Chargers, and at that point, hopefully, knock on wood, we don't have to worry about the division anymore if the Chargers get 4 losses. But dang it. Well, at least the Chargers have the Ravens this week, so I can hope for somebody else in your division to come through for me
Yeah,
and give them a
really. I
loss.
guess. I mean, I don't know if I want to cheer for the Chargers, but I guess I'd have to. They're the more. I mean, if they just keep winning, they're going to be a threat here. But you um,
I don't know. I feel like I feel like the Ravens are going to beat them. After watching this Bengals game, like the second half was as bad for the Chargers as the first half was good, and then they just had literally a 40-second drive that changed the outlook. Oh, I'm so
yeah,
mad, and they missed 2 field goals. Ugh, like It was Bill Simmons on his podcast was like, a couple years ago, it looked like Evan McPherson was like a budding young, like Justin Tucker. And then Cousin Sal replied with, well, now he is like Justin Tucker. Exactly. Like,
Yeah, they both missed 2 field goals this
yeah.
week. Um, what's the other game that you?
Well, this is less of a complaint, but, you know, I'm building a reputation on this podcast. And so I'm going to have to keep steering into it. I know people will just call me a hater at this point. But you know how you talked about when you play Madden, when you throw a bunch of picks, then your instinct is to try to like pad your stats up and get your touchdowns up. I'm not saying that's what the Lions were trying to do with Jared Goff, but I'm just saying that, they were up 35-6 in the third quarter. They are, at this point, let's see how much time was left. 35-6, 5:05 to go in the third quarter. Win probability, according to ESPN, at 99.9%. They go for it on fourth down, and then from first and goal at the 5, they decide to throw a pass. So Jared Goff gets a touchdown. Their next drive, after they get a pick, Jared Goff with a 9-yard touchdown pass to go from 42-6 up to 49-6 with 13:23 to go in the fourth quarter. I want you to guess, according to ESPN's win probability, what was their probability of winning the first time Jared Goff, before, like basically the play before Jared Goff threw his first touchdown pass of the game? What do you think that their win probability was at that point in the game?
Which was his first one? In the third quarter?
It was in the second quarter.
Okay. What was the score at that point? Man, it was probably like 70 something, right? At least.
It was 98.2%. For first touchdown pass the Jared Goff threw. 98.2%. So I'm just saying, like, I don't actually, like, if you were to put a gun to my head and be like, do you think that they were trying to pad Jared Goff's stats just because he threw 5 picks in the last game? I think I would say no. But, like, they were clearly pouring it on to pour it on, Like, whatever you think, maybe they were padding Jared Goff's stats to try to build his confidence. I would argue maybe they did that. I don't think it was just because he threw 5 picks. But, like, I'm just maybe it's because of Andy Reid's, like, mentality that I've gotten so used to, where it's just, like, just win the game and move on. I grow very skeptical of these teams that are just, like, blowing the doors off of teams in games that they've already won. It's like the last, like, 17 points, maybe even more, maybe even the last 24 points, like, don't really tell us anything about this team. Like,
yeah, just piling it on with a team that is demoralized and quit, basically.
Right, and the Jaguars essentially said that if they got blown out by the Lions, Doug Peterson's job is on the line, essentially. Like, so, like, I don't think the Jaguars team was in it. Like, I will say it was really surprising to me. Like, I don't mind them. They were up 28-6 at half. To start the third quarter, they throw a 64-yard bomb to Jameson Williams. Fine. But, like, when you're going for it on 4th and 2, up 35-6 near the end of the third quarter, like,
something's going on there.
Yeah, like, what are you doing? And then they proceeded to throw touchdowns twice from inside the 10-yard line. So I don't know. That was a very odd way to play that game, and I think people really like Dan Campbell. So I haven't seen one take on this game where it's like, why are you doing that? Like, yeah. I feel like certain coaches would not get the benefit of the doubt. People would be like, Belichick would have 100% got questioned, like, why are you running up the score?
Yeah,
but Dan Campbell is like,
this is reminiscent of the Patriots in 2007. They had games like this, and I think they were questioned, like, why are you still throwing it at that point?
Yeah. So it was really odd. I don't know. I mean, yeah, very strange. Yeah. But again, I think the Lions are a very good team. What they really remind me of is like the Ravens last year, or the Ravens for, I remember the 2019 Ravens, like when they played bad teams, they would just really run it up on people, and everyone's like, "Oh, these Ravens teams, they're so amazing," and then they get to the playoffs and they lose. So I'm always just a little skeptical. Like it's nice when you like if you blow the doors off a really good team, that's fine. I mean, but you also go to Houston and throw 5 picks, and it was a resilient win to come back and win that game. But I don't know. I I think the Lions will win the NFC. That would be my prediction, but I just don't know. I don't know that they're as scary as one would like. You can't just look at point differential here. Like they're
Yeah.
beating the snot out of terrible teams too. Like,
So you mentioned their win probability when he threw his first touchdown pass, and I want to ask about that. Do we have time for a little segment on the win probability stuff?
sure,
Because this just like puzzles the heck out of me, and I don't know what's going into it and how much to trust it. I mean, in some sense, what it should be doing is saying something like, out of 100 times when a team is in this situation, how often do they win, right?
right.
Like I take it that is the
I think
sort of
it's a little more specific to that. I think it's like out of 100 times, if these two teams were in this situation, how many times
okay,
would they win?
yeah. What I don't like, what is this situation there, such that I can gauge whether that is what I want to know, basically what I want to like is it like a snap is it like Marco is like a snapshot? Is it like a Markovian file? Like here, given the stats up to this point in the game right now, or is it more like how did we get here? Does it look at the history of how the game got to that point and like who might have the momentum right now and what the fact is like the fact that this team is playing worse right now might be evidence that they don't have anything left in the bag. Like, does any of that I guess it sort of just gets swamped out, right? When it just like looks at a huge data set and tries to extrapolate from teams. And so I guess I like, there's something useful about that, but I don't quite know how useful it is, right?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I think more than anything, like I used the number because it was so freaking high and I just love that. But no, I agree with this that clearly, like, my understanding is that they are using even like their own predictions from prior games to like continue to train these models. But you're right that like this is very much in an aggregate and doesn't like the model isn't taking into account that the Jaguars have underperformed this year or I don't think so. I think it's just like combining the Jaguars performances of this year and coming up with some idea of what this team is based on their like FPI that they've calculated for the team.
Yeah.
But there's definitely a lot of nuance that go. Anytime you have a number that high in the first half, that because like it's technically a 21-3 game there, so like there's a 0.02 chance that like Goff throws a pick six there, like and then suddenly like the game, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that seems low. Just
Yeah.
intuitively that seems low.
Yeah.
Or I shouldn't say 0.0. What did I say? Was it 99.8? It was 99.8.
It
What
was
did I say?
90 something. I just laughed at it once you started saying 90 something. I honestly don't remember what the other digit was.
Oh, sorry. It was 98.2. So there's a 1.8% chance that Jared Goff throws a pick six or something. Like, and it does take into account like where they are on the field and all that stuff too. Like, they're in the red zone because he threw a 27-yard touchdown. So, I guess he weren't in the red zone, but they're, in a favorable down and distance within field goal range, already up 21-3. So like it does take that stuff into account, but
I just
uh,
don't. Yeah. But
yeah, it's
like
hard for with
likewise
the
in those cases where like they say like this pass had a 18.4% completion probability or something like what variables are you taking into account when you come up with that probability, right? Because it was completed, right? So in some sense it probably was like if you took in all the variables it was the higher percentage. So
well, and one I will say, like, I kind of like those ones a little better because when do you ever see one where it's like 2% chance being completed?
yeah,
like
that's true.
like the really really low ones are like 18, 15, like
Yeah.
Things that are like at least like fairly reasonable. You know, you see an 85% free throw shooter miss a free throw here and there. You know, like but like these win probability models where it's like, well, they came back from 99%. It's like, all right, well, by definition, that should be happening 1 out of 100 times. Like,
Yeah. I mean, I wonder if what's going on in the throw percentage is something like people don't attempt throws that have like a 0.4% completion probability,
yeah,
right?
that's
What
true.
would even that throw be? It would be like throwing to
A defender.
straight at a defender or something. I don't know, right? So I feel like the model might just like break down for throws that low because it doesn't have data points, and they're all very extrapolated or something down there. So you know, I don't know.
You made me think that. So I went back and looked at in the first half how heavy did the Chargers win probability get? It got up to 97.2%. When Joe Burrow missed a 2nd and 6 pass at the Cincinnati 34 at 9:51 to go in the third quarter, down 27-6.
But it must have gotten fairly low given that the Bengals had those opportunities at the end.
Oh, it got up as high as Bengals having a 71.7% chance of winning. So, you know, then the question is like, was 97? So did we just see something really rare happen? Like something that was only 2.8% chance happening? Like the Bengals came back and tied this game?
Yeah.
Or was 97.2 an overrating of the probability? That's where it becomes hard to say. Like, and that's where on the aggregate, it just feels like, you know, sub 5% win probabilities seem to happen enough that you're like, huh. It just feels like these models get a little too confident at times. Like you'd
Yeah.
expect things to stay a little bit more between like 20 and 80% until the end of the game, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I guess, we could go to the data. And I don't know where the data is, but you could check like how well calibrated are they? Like when they have when it says 95%, how often does the team win? But yeah, you could it'd be funny. Like the limit of this is that they get so good that they're just like always at 100%, and there's never like any mystery of who's going to win the game. That would be that would be interesting. But
I do find it funny that so Bill Simmons and Cousin Sal brought this up on their podcast. The baseball teams have actually started in some of the broadcasts. They've started putting win probability on the screen during a game, and that to me is weird. Like, it's not a stat I care at all about in real time. Like, it's only to me interesting as like a retrospective thing. If something unlikely happened, I want to go back and see how unlikely the model thinks it was. You know, but like
yeah,
I don't really care if you're just like, well, at this point of the game right now, the Chiefs' chance to win is 71%. I'm like, I mean, okay.
that's where I start to wonder like how useful is this knowledge? Because is it taking into account the fact that their last four drives have sucked or whatever, or their last, or is it just a snapshot of like here we are?
My my understanding is that it's a snapshot. I don't think it's taking like data within the game to be predictive. I don't know. I'll have to look into it, but I don't think it's like except for just the aggregate stats. I don't think it's taking like the pattern of the game, for example, to be
Yeah,
predictive because I
yeah,
don't think most analytics people think that matters. I don't think they think the
yeah.
pattern is predictive. Like
But
if
it
you
can
score three
some,
times and they don't score four times. I mean, I
right?
think it is
Yeah,
because
right. Because if you run out of plays that the team like doesn't know how to defend, and you keep recycling the old plays, then it's you're not going to keep scoring or whatever, right? That can happen.
yeah, and some teams like start to figure the other team out, you know, and it's like, oh, I think that's what happened to the Chiefs in the AFC title game. You know, the Chiefs came out like gangbusters and scored 17 points fairly early in that game and had the chance for more. They failed a fourth down, and even like I think they missed a field goal, or maybe I don't remember now, but at least they failed a fourth down well within field goal range. So, and then the second half they didn't score at all, and I think the Ravens figured them out. Like they figured out what we were trying to do, and they defended it really well.
Yeah. Is that probability taken into account? Figuring out? I don't know. I don't know. I mean, they're fun, right? But to put it in the broadcast is also it adds another layer of like, are you trying to get engagement based on this thing? And if so, do you want it to swing in extremes and like how reliable is it at that point? But
I feel like it's bad for them if it's an extreme. Like you turn on a game and it's like, well, there's a 95% chance that this team wins. Like
That's
people turn
true.
it off.
Yeah, that's right. You don't want the model to be too good, right? Then that you take all the fun out of it.
Yeah.
Um, okay, well, probabilities aren't as straightforward as they are presented. Let's maybe
This stuff is complicated. I
yeah.
feel like that could be an alternate theme of this podcast. The subtitle could be things are complicated. I feel like
We'll at least
that
title this episode that. Episode 29, things are complicated. Right. Okay. Anything else before we wrap up here?
no, I mean the only other notable thing to me from this week is that the NFC West continues to be an enigma. It's one of my favorite predictions that I made. I think I said that each team is going to lose at least 2 games within the division, and I mean, at this point, I don't think the Cardinals have lost a game in division, so I'm going to need some help for that to come true. But I think I at least captured the kind of spirit of the division this year. Like
It's like what?
no
Cardinals are
team will
six and
take them.
four, and everyone else is 5-5.
I think that's right.
Yeah, that is surprising. I thought the Niners would be a lot better, but you were right on them.
Oh, you know what? There's one other thing that we should say, and that I think this is very fitting with what I felt about this team is that I just feel like we have not at all given enough acknowledgement to the Philadelphia Eagles this year. Like we pass over them every single time, and they're
Yeah,
sitting at 8-2, like probably the second best team in the NFC right now. Like record wise, they are, but who else would you have taking their place? Like I mean, that is the spot that one would like to have given to the Packers by this point, but the Packers are looking kind of shaky. The Vikings are still 8-2, but I don't know that. I certainly don't
yeah.
believe in
I'm
them,
really
even though
scared of the
they've
Sam Darnold thing.
yeah they've already hit
Yeah.
their over. Unfortunately, they've already blown up my lock. I said under 7.5 wins. They've already hit the over, but
Well, um, I mean, I
so I'll be
probably
doing one punishment.
the Caleb Williams one too. So we have both lost already. um, yeah, I guess right. That is we should mention them because they've sort of at least quietly in our world been just chugging along.
What is your read as to why is it so quietly? Why aren't we excited about the Eagles?
Yeah, I don't know. We do have to play them soon, and I don't. I guess I shouldn't. I should be very worried about that. But
The battle
I
for
mean, I
Pennsylvania.
didn't watch. I was traveling when they played this past week, so I didn't get to watch much of it. But what it was close, right? It was like Washington had, yeah, they had a lead for a while. So I don't know. Like, I guess this is they're 8-2 and we're 8-2 in similar ways, right? Like we're managing, but I don't know how good of an 8-2 either one is.
Yeah, it's tough to say. I mean, the one like really good win that the Eagles have is that they fairly comprehensively beat the Bengals 37-17.
Oh yeah,
Um,
but
this
that was
Commanders game
early, or was that not?
that was like 3 weeks ago, I think, three
Oh,
or
okay,
four
that's
weeks
not
ago.
early. Yeah,
But otherwise, they had that weird Brazil game against the Packers. They, I don't know that any of their other wins are that. I mean, the Commanders are no chump team, but they haven't beaten a good team either yet this year, at
yeah.
least.
The
Yeah,
Jaguars played close too, 28-23 over the Jaguars.
yeah, so to me, I think the biggest thing is I just don't really believe in Nick Sirianni. I Well, I guess the Commanders also beat the Bengals, so I should give them credit for that too. But yeah, so I don't know that I believe in Nick Sirianni, and I don't know that I believe. It just feels like when teams have to, kind of like with the Ravens, when things get really serious, teams are able to shut down their offense more than you'd like, and that's how I feel. That's really how I feel about the Eagles as well.
Yeah, but, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens when we play them. I think it's still a couple weeks out. Yeah, it's on it's the week before we play you all, mid-December there. Anyway, all right. Well,
Did
man,
you
I
want
don't
to
have
throw in an
anything.
anecdote?
Oh yeah, yeah. What was my anecdote going to be? I thought of it while we were talking. Um, uh, it was something about. It was connected with yours about playing basketball, not him. Uh, I don't remember. It was also connected with Lamar Jackson, maybe like overthinking everything when he plays the Steelers. That I think that was just like that was my modus operandi when I played sports in middle and high school. It was like, yeah, overthink everything. Should I shoot this? Should I not shoot this? That results in me sitting there thinking too long, and then I get blocked or whatever. Right? Like everything was just like think twice and then get screwed, right? Just as opposed to play. Um, so I don't know that I can't remember exactly what I had a moment in mind, but it's not coming back to me now. But anyway, that was. I mean, that explains basically a lot of my athletic career. So you can just sort of extrapolate from there. Imagine me doing all sorts of stupid things because that would be accurate. Anyway, good. Well, uh, man, I feel like we had I had a good segue last time to wrap it up, but I'll just do something stupid here, and then I can segue that with my comment about myself. Um, yeah, I don't have anything. Do you have anything to close this out?
No, I'll just say if there happen to be any people that just scroll to the end for anecdotes, you'll have to go through the podcast to find mine. Mine's
Yeah,
in the middle of our Steelers review.
I can't imagine. I would love there to be a person that does that. That just scrolls to the
It
end. I
just goes
really
right
want
to
to
the
hear
end.
these stories about them.
I want to get to know us from our high school days.
Yeah. Well, there you got a good one about me being athletically uncoordinated.
All right. Well, thanks to everyone for listening and watching. Just as a reminder, we're here on this YouTube page. We are wherever you download podcasts. The audio form is there, and we're on social media at STCF715. The Chiefs film review will come out. I'll record it tonight. It probably will be uploaded tomorrow morning. Then the Steelers film review I'll have to do tomorrow night because they're playing on Thursday, so I gotta get it out before
Uh,
the Thursday night game. So there'll be a lot of film stuff coming out in the next couple days, and then we'll be watching Steelers Browns. I'll be on Twitter during the game, and I'll try to post some stuff about the game after the game. So there'll be another film review over the weekend probably for the Steelers Browns game. I'll try to get that up before the Sunday games. So
Geez, there's a lot of
there'll be a
film
lot of
reviews.
film reviews coming.
Yeah. Well, keep them coming, and keep watching them, everyone. Um, and we'll cue the outro music here, which is now a segment or a little bit of our
Oh, I'm
podcast.
excited. All right. Until next time.
Yeah.